There are some conversations you forget almost immediately, and then there are the ones that quietly follow you home. This was one of those. Every summer, my dad's side of the family gets together for Uncle Ray's birthday. Nobody really dresses up. The menu never changes much. There's always too much potato salad. Somebody inevitably burns the garlic bread. And by the end of the evening, half the family is arguing about sports while the other half is pretending not to. It's wonderfully predictable. This year, I found myself sitting across from my cousin Claire. Claire is 34. She's a project manager at a healthcare company in Charlotte. Sharp, organized, the kind of person who always seems like she has everything under control. She's worked incredibly hard for the life she's built. Looking at her from the outside, you'd probably assume money isn't something she worries about anymore. Dinner had barely started when she leaned toward me. Not dramatically, almost casually.
Layla, can I ask you something without everyone overhearing?
Of course. She hesitated a second before saying something I wasn't expecting.
I make more money than I ever imagined I would.
She laughed softly.
So, why does it never feel like enough?
For a moment, I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know what to say, because I'd heard versions of that question so many times before. From friends, from people who write to this channel, sometimes, from myself. Welcome to The Circle. I'm Layla. And today we're talking about why earning more money doesn't always make us feel more financially secure, and why some of the highest earners end up feeling trapped by the very success they spent years chasing. Most of us absorb the same story growing up. Maybe not in school, maybe not even directly, but it got in anyway. Study hard, get a good job, earn more money, and eventually, money stops being stressful. When you're making $40,000, you imagine life at 80. When you're making 80, you imagine 150. The finish line keeps moving. But here's what the data actually shows. According to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, 4 out of 10 Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Roughly the same share of people earning over $500,000 report the exact same thing. Say that again. People bringing in $500,000 a year, paycheck to paycheck. A separate 2025 study found that nearly half of people earning $100,000 or more describe their financial lives the same way. And research from Bank of America, which defined the term as spending more than 95% of income on necessities, found that roughly 1 in 5 households earning over $150,000 qualify. So, the idea that a high salary automatically equals financial security? That's not reality. That's a story we inherited. After dinner, Claire and I stepped outside. The evening had finally cooled down. Inside, everyone else was arguing about whose turn it was to wash the serving dishes.
I honestly don't know where it all goes.
She said. So I asked her a different question. Walk me through your month, not your budget, your life. The house she bought after her first big promotion. The SUV she leased because she'd started driving clients more. The gym membership, meal delivery, streaming services, weekend trips, professional wardrobe. A house cleaner twice a month because she simply doesn't have time anymore. None of it sounded outrageous. Almost all of it sounded completely reasonable. That's exactly what surprised me. We tend to imagine financial trouble starting with one spectacular mistake. Real life is usually much quieter than that. It's one upgrade, then another, then another, like tiny drops filling a bucket. You hardly notice the water rising until there's no room left. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, but that phrase makes it sound like something careless people do. It doesn't. It happens to careful, driven, successful people, precisely because each step forward feels earned. And here's what makes it a trap. Once the lifestyle is in place, reversing it feels like losing. Selling the car feels like a demotion. Moving somewhere smaller feels like going backwards. The lifestyle doesn't just cost money, it costs flexibility. And flexibility is exactly what you need when something goes wrong. There's another layer to this. We don't just upgrade our possessions. We quietly upgrade our idea of what's normal. The first time you stay in a nice hotel, it feels luxurious. After the fifth time, it feels standard. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. I think of it differently. Our expectations are incredibly fast learners. They adjust far faster than our gratitude does. Claire said something that stuck with me. She said she couldn't imagine moving into a smaller house now, not because she loved every extra room, but because it would feel like moving backwards. That sentence stayed with me, because money isn't only about numbers. It's about identity. We become attached not just to the things themselves, but to what those things say about the life we've built. And once identity gets involved, financial decisions become emotional ones. Far more emotional than any spreadsheet admits. A few days after the dinner, I started reading everything I could find about people who had actually built lasting wealth. Not people who looked wealthy, people who stayed wealthy. What I found surprised me. I expected luxury homes and the newest cars. Instead, I kept finding stories about teachers, engineers, small business owners, people on streets you drive through without a second thought. Many of them had become millionaires not because they earned extraordinary salaries, but because they quietly kept a meaningful part of what they earned. A 2025 Empower study found that over 60% of everyday millionaires still budget consistently, still look for good deals, and describe their spending as selective, even after crossing the $1 million threshold. And only about a third of millionaires in the U.S. ever averaged $100,000 or more per year over their careers. The rest built wealth on incomes most people wouldn't consider exceptional. The conclusion is uncomfortable. Someone earning $70,000 a year and saving 20% is building more real wealth than someone earning $400,000 and saving 3%. Income gets you in the room. What you do once you're there determines where you end up, because income and wealth aren't the same thing. Income is what passes through your hands. Wealth is what stays. Here's one number that reframes everything. As of late 2025, the average American personal savings rate was 3.6%. For every $100 of disposable income, the average person holds on to less than 4. During the pandemic, that rate shot up to nearly 34%. People accidentally discovered what saving aggressively felt like. Then, the world reopened. And within a year, the rate collapsed back down. This pattern holds across income levels. Someone earning $75,000 who saves 4% puts away $3,000 a year. Someone earning $300,000 who saves 4% puts away $12,000. Looks like 4 times the savings, but relative to what each person earns, they're equally exposed. One expensive emergency, one job loss, and both households are scrambling. Research from the Millionaire Next Door framework found that actual wealth builders direct at least 15% of income into savings and investments before spending anything else. That's the baseline behavior that separates people who accumulate wealth from people who earn a lot and have little to show for it. A 2025 Charles Schwab survey found that 63% of respondents said it takes more money to feel wealthy than it did just a year before. You hit $500,000 in net worth and find out comfortable now means $839,000. You reach $1 million and discover wealthy requires $2.3 million. No number ever lands because the target floats upward with every comparison you make. A few weeks after the dinner, Claire called me.
I've been paying attention.
She said. To what?
To the way people talk at work. And now I can't unhear it.
A colleague had just renovated a kitchen that was already beautiful. Another was buying a bigger house after a bonus. Someone else had upgraded to a luxury SUV. Nobody was trying to impress anyone. They were simply responding to the new normal around them.
6 months ago, I would have looked at all of that and thought, maybe I should be doing that too. Now, I keep asking myself, do I actually want that?
That might be one of the most powerful financial questions you can ask. Not, can I afford it? But, would I still want this if nobody else ever saw it? When we met for coffee a month later, she looked lighter. She'd canceled a few subscriptions she'd forgotten about, decided to keep her current car, and automated part of every paycheck into investments before she had the chance to spend it. Nothing dramatic. Nobody looking at her life from the outside would have noticed a difference, but she noticed. For the first time in years, she felt like she was moving towards something, instead of constantly trying to keep up. That's the principle that actually works, even if it's uncomfortable. Stop trying to save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving. Automate a savings and investment contribution before the money is available to spend. Someone earning $400,000 who routes $120,000 into investments first will still live an excellent life. And 20 years from now, they'll have something real to show for all those high-earning years. Same income, completely different ending. As I drove home after seeing Claire that afternoon, I thought about something my father once told me.
Real success isn't measured by what your money lets you buy. It's measured by what your money lets you choose.
I didn't fully understand that when I was younger. I thought freedom meant earning more. Now I think freedom is something quieter than that. It's opening your banking app without feeling anxious. It's knowing an unexpected bill won't undo years of hard work. It's making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. Real financial security isn't a salary number. It's options. The option to leave a job that no longer makes you happy, to help your family without emptying your account, to retire on your own timeline instead of someone else's. That doesn't come from earning more. It comes from keeping more. I'm Layla. This is The Circle. If today's story reminded you of someone you care about, or maybe of yourself, share it with them. Because sometimes the conversation that changes our financial life begins around an ordinary dinner table. I'll see you next time.